Alrighty, hello. So today we are going to be wrapping up chatbots. We're going to be covering a new example of a slightly more advanced chatbot. This is primarily to give you some ideas on how you can expand on chatbots. They're incredibly versatile. Pretty much you're limited by your imagination on how you want to implement them. They're just amazing. So we're going to start off today with um, it's a top 10 song chatbot. And so I picked 10 of some, I would say they're probably on the top 50 of my songs. And I made a chatbot that kind of discussed them. So um, the way that the file structure works is I have my input file, and this is just all this is for is to match the user input. I don't remember what I call it, like top 10 songs.txt or something like that. Anyways, this all it consists of is a series of like for the number one song it's number one, then there's the word one, and then first and number one and things like that that are kind of listed inside of the file, as well as the song name and the band name. So number one I think is Gallows Bird by Trees of Eternity. And yes, I realize I have some very strange songs. Uh, so that's my input file. And then the next song would be the next, I would end this with at sign, my entry, and then I'd go to the second one and so forth. I'll show you how that works. So input file is just going to match user input, and then it's going to output to one of three files. So we're going to have three files that it can output. If the user input, so we'll say user input, is just one first, the song name, the band name, anything like that, then it is going to, so we'll just say a song or number. Then it's going to output to the first output file, which is just song information. I wrote up a little blurb on every single one of the songs so that you can kind of see what they are before you ever think about listening to them, which I don't recommend many of y'all listening to these songs. I have a very strange set of songs that I like. I have strange musical taste. So that's the typical input is going to output to that file. It would just give you more information about the song. However, if instead of this, we have something like um, the song name or the number plus Spotify. So the word Spotify can be anywhere in here. You could say Spotify for song one, Spotify for Trees of Eternity, Trees of Eternity, Spotify. It doesn't matter what order it's in, as long as the word Spotify is in there. It's then going to go to the second of the output files, which just contains the Spotify link for that song. Okay, and then the last type of input that you can get is same thing here. You have the song or the number, etc. And if you say the word YouTube, it doesn't matter if you uppercase, lowercase. I check for all that. And then I'm running out of room, but you can imagine it gives you a YouTube link then, and that's it. So this is going to give you kind of like ideas and capability to have all sorts of interesting chatbots. Um, this type of structure is one of the ways that the chatbots that are in at the company's websites are so robust, because based on the user input, it parses, it doesn't just check versus the list, it parses that input, and then it's able to go to different sections inside of its code. So this is where you'll actually see in the wild, is being able to do things like insurance quotes versus talking to a representative, listing policy things. All of that can be completely driven by just doing searches for the user input and then going to the corresponding output files. Alrighty, so enough about this. Let's actually go look at the code. So let me pause this and go to the code. Okay, so here we are in the code, and um, I didn't do a whole lot of changes to it, but I made it a little bit more robust. A few things that I tweaked here and there. And if you want to go through and kind of a comparison, just load up this one and then load up the first chatbot code that we went over and see what differences there are. First thing that's the difference that you'll notice is that I'm opening the input file that I'm using to match the user input versus, but I'm not opening the output file. So that happens later on in the code. So that's the first change. The initial greeting, I just changed it to where it kind of talked about what the chatbot was there to do. Changed the bot ID. All the different responses that it can give, I tweaked just a little bit just so they'd make more sense and they'd be more coherent. The original prompts would not be appropriate. You don't want it to be doing the top 10 song bot that is suddenly talking about laser turrets and stuff. So changed all of that, or tried to. I don't think I missed anything. But these are all the responses that you can set your personality with. Now for the actual changes, let's go down to here. Okay. So this is where the code really begins, is right here. This flag gets true. I print the bot ID and then plus the very initial greeting that I set up here. That tells what kind of bot it is. Okay. And so the next thing it does is it enters this while loop. And so it does, it gets the user's input, and I put a little prompt in front of it because I was tired of seeing the blank lines, which are just sitting there. Maybe the user doesn't know they can type anything at that point. They're waiting for some sort of prompt. So now it's got a little triple angle bracket prompt for the user to type something in. And so what it does is it gets the input, stores it in user response, and then it looks for the word Spotify, and this user response dot lower changes the user response to all lowercase. So it tries to match that versus the word Spotify. If it does, then it sets the output file name as song Spotify. Else, if the word YouTube appears inside the user response, it changes the output file name to song YouTube.txt. Else, the output file name gets the default song info.txt. So this is just one way you can kind of tweak it to where you can do multiple output files. And so now that the output file name has been set by whatever the user put in, it just goes through the standard sequence that it did before. Haven't changed anything like this. So it basically comes down to, where is it? Right here, response, user response. So it comes up to the response, and then it takes the user input and then matches it versus the input file. So that's what all this was. I haven't changed anything on that. Here's the change that had to happen. So I set the file name, but I never opened the file. So now we open the file name that was set earlier, depending on if it was Spotify, YouTube, or just the default. And so it sets that, opens it up, splits it, and then does the bot response, and then prints out the text that corresponds to the entry that it matched with the input file. So if it matched the second entry, it outputs the second entry from the output file name, whatever that is, whether it's the Spotify or whatever. And so that's pretty much it. You can get pretty creative with this and do all sorts of weird nested things because it's super easy to just set the file name, the output file name, and then just open it whenever you're ready to actually do your output. So there you have it. Now I'll show you some of the actual operation, but before I do that, let me show you the files themselves. So let me pause this and go to the files. Okay, so here we are with the top 10 songs.txt. I've opened up in WordPad. It's the same type of thing that we saw in the original one. One first, the number first, number one, and then it's got the actual name of the song and the group. And then I follow that with the @ symbol, since I'm splitting my file based on that @ symbol. You can do some more advanced splits to it if you want to be able to have an @ inside there. You can change that symbol. You can also set to where it not only splits the lines based on that, but you have specific delimiters that will kick in the new line. So like, never mind. I'm not going to get into all that because that's getting complicated. I'm even thinking about how to say it, and I can't even think of how to say that without getting complicated. So there are lots of things you can do, but this is one of the simplest things. Is you just put the character that you want to split the file up, and kind of break it all up based on that. So first entry, second entry, all the way down to the 10th entry. And notice that the 10th entry does not have an @ symbol at the very end, because when I split this, I want it to split where the first song and the very last song are kind of like the bookends. There's no @ symbol before the first. There's no @ symbol after the last. So you want entry 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 dot all the way to entry and end like that. Okay, so that's the input file that it'll match versus the user input. And then let's go to the other. Let me open up the next one. Let's see. Okay, so this one is the default. It's song info.txt. So if the user doesn't put in the word Spotify or YouTube, this is what it's going to default to. In the case of the first one, Gallows Bird by Trees of Eternity is haunting gothic metal at its best. The ethereal female vocal contrasts beautifully with the dark male vocal. So that's just a little synopsis of what the song is. And I'll do that for every one of the songs. And so that's the default. And then the Spotify and the YouTube file just have the links, and you don't want to see those. So let's go to the actual program and see how it works now. So let's switch over to that. Okay, here we are with the IPython console, so I can run the code. I'm going to click up run it. Alrighty, so it tells me what it is. It's a top 10 song bot, general information about Dr. Mayo's top 10 songs. Not really, but I never know what my top 10 really is. It changes day to day. And it gives the information for the user how to actually pull up the Spotify or the YouTube link. You just have to type Spotify or YouTube in the actual user entry followed by something to identify the song from the user input. So, for example, let's type in 6. So, 6 is the number 6 song is Where Owls Know My Name by Rivers of Nile. And it's an inspired fusion of progressive metal and soulful jazz with syncopated beats and smooth saxophone. Um, yeah, I was tired when I wrote that, so bear with me. It's not too cringy. Um, I really am very, very, very passionate about my music though, so I'm not making this stuff up. I what I'm writing, I actually mean. It really is an amazing piece of music. Gosh, they're a strange group. I like them though. So that right there is the default info that will be output to the person, the user. So what I can do now is say, you know, I would like to know what the Spotify link is to that song. That sounds pretty cool. So 6 Spotify, and there's the Spotify info, or 6 YouTube. Or if you don't want to do those, you could actually do the name, maybe Owls Spotify, and then it will output based on the song name, the group name, and that way you can uh, get the actual links and paste them in. One thing to note though is that in order to actually copy the links, um, it is actively running, looking for user input, so it does not like you trying to copy and paste. So if you really want to copy and paste, you have to say goodbye to it, and then it's easy to copy and paste the songs. So just a little bit of a trick to it, and that's it. There's it's not a it's not too much more complicated than the original stuff, but it adds a lot of functionality, and hopefully this can inspire a couple of y'all to do something unusual with your chatbot. I mean, I've seen some crazy chatbots. One person made a helper for D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, that would roll dice automatically. If they typed in roll D20, they'd roll a D20, give the output. They looked up monsters, character abilities, you name it. So it. You can go crazy with chatbots. They're just amazing. One person wrote, uh, got tired of figuring out when certain math classes were offered, whether it was spring or fall or both. So they wrote a program that coded in all the different math classes, and bam, now they just fire up that. If they ever want to know, they have the information in their chatbot. So yeah, I kind of wish we had that at Austin P, to be honest. It would save a lot of time. Um, but that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be sending all the code out to you so you can, work with it yourself. And I guess I will see you later. Good luck with your chatbots. We're going to be starting the reinforcement learning probably may send something out this weekend with the reinforcement learning. If not, it'll be like Monday. So good luck with everything, and I will see you later. Take care. Stay safe. Bye bye.